My name is Ray Yazbek. I work in the central bank in the legal department, and we're going to talk today about the Intermediate Circular 331 and its impact on the ecosystem and why, a bit of history about it and how it works. Then we're going to talk a bit about how you establish a company in Lebanon. And then at the end, an overview on the IP rights. How can you protect your intellectual property rights in Lebanon? So first of all, we're going to talk about the Circular 331. Okay, so what's behind the Circular 331? The governor of the central bank, Mr. Riyad Saleh, and the team that's working with him, they had this idea of bringing this hub, technology hub to Lebanon. Like, so because in the area, in the whole area, even in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, you don't have like a center a bit similar to Silicon Valley. So where you have technology apps, venture capitalists who can work. So this sector, since it's a new sector and it's like the future of the economy, and it can boost the Lebanese economy, with the governor of the central bank decided to put money in the market to create this sector, and he used the banking sector in Lebanon, which is the only sector that's stable and strong, in order to promote this new sector of technology. Okay, so the purpose of the whole, what you're seeing today and the whole injection of money on the market is to create new jobs, to put Lebanon as a center of this technology scheme where you have new ideas, young people, and mainly because you have many young Lebanese who are very well educated and who are going to the US, for example, to promote and to create their companies, whereas they can do it here, and where Lebanon can be like the place where foreign companies can buy those companies from Lebanon, etc. Okay, so how does 331 work? What's the financing? How is it? What structure is it? If you're a young guy who has an idea, or if you're a foreigner who wants to create this company in Lebanon, how can you benefit from the financing under 331? So first of all, you go to a bank. Actually, the central bank cannot invest directly in a company. So we use the banking system in order to promote, to put those investment in the startups. So the first idea was to invest in startups, direct investment of banks in startups, not as loans, but as equity, investment in equity. So basically, the bank is a partner with the founder in this startup. But then we saw that it wasn't only about startups. It's about also venture capital funds and accelerators and incubators who are like, they create the pipeline where you have more and more startups. They do the selection for the venture capital companies that will be established. So you have three choices, actually. You have the first choice where the bank is investing directly in a startup. You have the second choice where the bank invests in a venture capital company, and the venture capital company invests in the startup. And then you have the third choice where the bank invests in an accelerator or an incubator, of which the purpose is not to to invest in companies, but it's to help companies for better investments. Okay, so how do you benefit from 331? You have an idea, you go to a bank, you give your idea to the bank, you tell them, I want to do this, that. They will study your project, they will study your business plan. It should be based on knowledge economy. There's an innovation. There should be like something new. It shouldn't be something that has been seen before. Okay, so it can be in any field. It doesn't have to be in technology, because there's a misconception where 331 only works for tech and for application. It's not only that. It can be in agriculture, but it should be something that's new, that doesn't exist already. Okay, so once you present your project to the bank will study your project, and then if they're convinced that they want to invest with you, they will file an application to the central bank, and they will tell them, okay, we have this company, we want to invest in this company, please finance us under 331. What is the financing under 331? The financing is that the central bank will give the bank 75% of the amount they want to invest in this company. Okay. Please, if anyone has questions, please let me know. Sorry, بلشنا. Okay. So this is the classic uh, procedure. You also, if the bank is not 100% convinced that your startup will succeed, they will send you to one of the venture capital funds that was created and where the bank has a share as well. Okay? So if the bank is convinced that your startups can be successful, they will prefer to invest directly instead to sending you to a venture capital where the profits will be spread among all the shareholders of the venture capital. So the bank will will send the file to the central bank. The central bank, we will study the file and we will give 75% of the amount the bank needs to the bank in order to be invested in the startup. Any questions? You're fine. Okay. So, of course, if the bank considers that this, especially for accelerators that usually are not for profit, they're not made for profit, we gave exceptions where we gave 100% of the amount, not only 75%. Okay. Okay, that's it. Okay, the other condition where for this financing is that we need the bank to exit from the company after 7 years. We cannot make it stay forever. It has to go out after 7 years. Okay, if the company is really successful and the bank wants to stay in this company, they can tell them, okay, please, they can send to the BDL a request that we want to stay, then we will give them an exception. Okay. Something else, okay. Okay, and once there is an exit, once the bank sells their shares, they have to share the profits with the central bank. We take 50% of the profits. If there are any losses, the bank doesn't have to give back the amount to the central bank. So it's not a guarantee. We give the money and we tell the banks, if you invest in this company, if you win, we share the profits. If you lose, just give back what's left of the money. Okay, so this is for those who like graphs. So the central bank gives the money 75% to the bank. The bank invests either in a startup, an accelerator, or a venture capital. Okay, it is limited to 80%. So the bank cannot invest in more than 80% of the capital of the startup. They cannot own more than 80% because they will have like full control of the company, and it makes no sense that the founder will not have anything left. Okay. After 7 years, the bank has to sell their shares from the startup. 25%, like the profit, will go back to the bank, and the rest will be shared between the bank and the central bank for the profits. No, it depends on the company. It depends on the bylaws of the company. So if the bank has 80% of the company, 20% will remain to the founders. Okay. Yeah, they can do a shareholder agreement where they can have, they agree that they can. And even, by the way, so if you have 80%, okay, you have to put, if you're a founder, you have to put 20% cash. If you don't have those 20%, the bank can own up to 100%, but they give you an option to rebuy those. They have to give you an option to rebuy 20% at least of those shares at the minimum price, like at the start. Okay. Okay, so what are the requirements to benefit from 331? First of all, you have to be an SAL. It's a joint stock company. I will talk a bit later about the SAL. You cannot be a financial company, a bank, an financial intermediary. You cannot be an offshore company, because the idea of 331 is that we want the center of the company, the kitchen of the company, to be in Lebanon. So the market doesn't have to be Lebanon, but you have to have a company in Lebanon that's working in Lebanon, and that to create jobs and everything. You can have branches abroad, but the main kitchen should be in Lebanon. Okay. So once we study the file, we see if all those requirements are there. It should, as I said, it should be under a knowledge economy. You should show the business plan of the company, if you can boost the economy of Lebanon, how do you create jobs, what's going to happen, like for at least 3 years in the future. Okay. Okay. Another thing is that this company that's under 331, that gets the financing from 331, is subject to the supervision of the central bank and of the Banking Central Control Commission, which is the commission that controls bank. So we will see how this company is working, where it is going, where the reporting is from the banks. The bank that who invested in a company has to report to the central bank on this on what's going with this company. Okay. So once, as I said at the beginning, that we started by creating this idea of banks investing in startups directly. Then the banks saw that they couldn't manage those startups, so they came up with the idea, and we supported that, of putting the money in a fund, in a company, a venture capital company, that will invest. So they brought management teams, and those management teams are managing those funds because they have the experience. Like you have many of those venture capital, you have Impact, Beritech, and many. You have 6 or 7 already in Lebanon. Okay, so what are the specific rules of the venture capital funds? They should be holding companies. They are usually holding companies because they benefit from tax exemption in Lebanon. For the VCs, we review all the documentation before giving the approval. So we give a pre-approval on the entire structure. Once they get the approval, they can go to banks and have each bank invest in this venture capital. The VC should put itself under the supervision of the Banking Control Commission and of the central bank. Okay. There is an important thing. The venture capital that is financed by the central bank cannot invest in foreign companies. It should be a Lebanese company, and that can have branches abroad. But as I said, the important thing is to boost the system in Lebanon. So we only finance Lebanese startups. Okay. Okay, for the VCs, differently than banks, the bank, once they exit from the startup, they have to share the profits with the central bank. The VC on a lower level, when they invest in startups, if they do an exit, they keep the money and they reinvest it until the end of the fund. They don't have to share the profits every time they do an exit. Okay. Any questions? Yeah.
You said that the VCs cannot invest in foreign companies. They can only invest Lebanese companies. What if they make profits out of an exit from a startup that they invested in using central bank funds? Can they use that money to reinvest abroad or not?
So the VC has to keep the money. If they want to reinvest the money, they have to invest it in companies that are under 331, and all the regulation of the 331 startups should fall under the VC should fall under the regulation of the 331 startups. Okay. Okay, as I said, this is what you asked, by the way. So it should the startup of the VC should follow the same rules as of the 331. Okay. On the other hand, you have now a new regulation that modified a bit the old regulation concerning accelerators and incubators, because we noticed that some accelerators were pushing companies, and the managers of those accelerators were investing indirectly or directly in those companies. So we put several rules for accelerators and incubators. So the manager of an accelerator cannot invest directly or indirectly in a startup they are helping. So as I said, the role of the accelerator is to help startups, to give them trainings, to help them grow, okay, without being an investor in those startups. So we forbid the managers of the accelerators to invest in the companies, and we put a limit because sometimes those startups don't have money to pay the accelerators for the services. So they give them a bit of their capital, like 5% of their capital. Okay, so we put a limit that the accelerator cannot have more than 5% in the startup. Okay. Okay. One more thing. So if the accelerator has 5% of a company, if they exit, they sell those 5%, they have to share the profit directly with the central bank, because the accelerator is not an investor, the accelerator is a helper. They're creating the pipeline to promote the startups. Okay. So now I'm going to talk a bit more generally about how to establish a company in Lebanon. But before that, anyone has a question?
Thank you. Okay, first off, regarding the exit, you said they have to exit within 7 years. If the banks are, if a company is getting investment, sorry, if a company is taking investment money from a bank, 331 money, the bank has to exit within 7 years. Within 7 years, so that can be within 5 years, for example?
Yeah, it can be less than 7 years.
Okay.
It shouldn't exceed 7 years.
And is there any ruling on the profits, like as far as the management buyout? Does the bank have to sell it? Because somebody told us that that they'll be sold in the stock market.
They are preparing a stock market for startups.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What I wanted to ask was, can we buy back our shares? Like, if the bank invests and exits, can we have an option of buying back our shares? And one more thing, is there a specific formula for the profits? Like, we know when VCs invest, they want their profits back upon exit, times 6 or times 5 or times whatever. What's the formula as far as 331?
So for the formula, I'm gonna start by the last question. The formulas, it depends on the VC. So you don't each VC studies how they want to make the profits and how they would. Of course, yeah, from profits from the bank. Oh, okay. No, this is an agreement between the bank and the startup. Of course, we review the agreement. So if there is any excess, we stop them. We don't allow any, like, we're being fair at the central bank, you know. But but this goes as an agreement between the startup and the bank. Okay. And what was your other question? Oh yeah. Yeah, as I said at the beginning, you can it also goes between as the agreement between you and the VC or the bank. So they can they can give you the option to buy out, but this goes with the negotiations between you and the bank. Okay? There is no rules on buying out, except one rule is that if the bank invests in more than 80% of your company, everything that's above 80%, they have to give you an option to buy out your company. Okay? Any other question?
Uh, 331, does it support accelerators? And there's funds going for them? And what's the rules to become one?
Okay, I was talking about accelerate. Maybe you got a bit late, that's why. He was asking me about accelerators. I'm going to repeat in 2 minutes. Yeah, of course. The 331 is for 3 main actors in the ecosystem of startups. You have the direct startup, the investment of a bank in directly in a startup, the VCs, and the accelerators and incubators. So in the central bank, we already financed 4 accelerators, and we are giving 100% investment, not only 75%. And the rules under which the accelerators fall is that the management of the the purpose of the accelerator should be to promote the startups in the whole market, and not only to promote the startup for this investor or this specific investor. So we forbid the managers of the accelerator to invest directly or indirectly in the startup. And the second rule was that we cannot allow an accelerator to have more than 5% in the company they are helping. I guess. It's the same procedure. So you just go to a bank, you tell them I want to do an accelerator. It's like the startup. You tell them I want to do an accelerator, I want to promote the market of startups, I want to help startups, I want to grow the ecosystem. And then you present your file with everything that's required. You can ask the banks will help you. And then the bank, if they're convinced that you're capable of holding this accelerator, they will apply at the central bank, and they will ask for the money from the central bank. We will study the file again, but usually we just agree. It's not very difficult. The accelerator cannot invest in a company. The accelerator will get the money because they can have 5% of the shares. Okay, so that's why we are financing the accelerators on 100%. So we are not expecting accelerators to win money. They can break even. If they own 5% of one company that succeeded, they can earn money, but then we have to share the profits with the accelerator. But the accelerator is not an investor. This is a misconception. No, it's not a money-making business. No. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm gonna talk about how to establish a company in Lebanon. It's a joint stock company under, like I would talk as about it under the 331 regulation. So what's needed also for the 331? So basically, the joint stock company, what's the advantages of the joint stock company is that your responsibility is limited to what you bought in the company, to the shares you bought. So it's divided in shares, and you are not responsible or liable on more than the amount you invested in this company. So it's a limited liability company. Okay, and it's one of the few companies that's recognized in the Lebanese commercial code. Okay, so the advantage of the joint stock company is that you can sell the shares very easily. So you just sell one share, two shares. You can put them on the stock exchange. So as the governor said in the opening ceremony, they are creating a platform for startups where the shares will be traded. So this will be the goal of 2016. So all those shares of the 331 companies will be placed on this platform. Okay. So under 331, what's relevant for us at the central bank to allow a company? And those are rules for a joint stock company. So the founders should be, of course, over 18 with clean criminal records, at least 3 founders. But the founders, this is important, the founders do not have to be Lebanese founders. Okay? So the important thing is that the company is Lebanese, but the founders do not have to be Lebanese. But the law imposes that in the board of directors there should be at least one Lebanese. Okay, so what happens is that the object of the company is agreed between the founders. Of course, it should be approved by the BDL if you want to benefit from 331, and then you register it at the trade register. So once you establish the company, you put the money in a bank. And okay, another important thing. Some people ask us that can we invest, can we instead of putting money in the capital of the company, can we say that we brought our efforts as it's called apport en industrie? This doesn't exist in the Lebanese law. So you have to put cash. It goes with your question that you asked me before. You have to put cash in the capital to own shares of the cash or like an asset, a certain asset. Okay, so as I said, the shares are really easily tradable. And okay, another advantage for the joint stock company is that the auditors of the company should be approved by the state, which gives them, so it's a better company, it's it's well audited. Okay. So quickly, how do you establish a company? You prepare the bylaws. The bylaws are like the most important document of the company. It will be, if you want to benefit from 331, it will be reviewed by the central bank with all the documents for 331 financing. Then you go, you sign it at a notary public, and then you pay all the fees. The entire documents will be signed by the central bank. Then you can go register it at the trade registry with the first general assembly meeting and the board of directors. The board of directors where the chairman is appointed. This is just general law, the commercial law. Okay, once the company is registered, it gets a number at the trade registry. Then you do you get a financial identification number from the Ministry of Finance. And then within 3 months of registration, you have to pay a fee to the Ministry of Finance. Okay. The last topic for today is a bit, it's a general topic about international property rights. Okay, so how do you protect an ID in Lebanon? And it's a bit like internationally, but in Lebanon, how do you protect your ID? Because many people come and ask us, like, how do I have an ID, but I'm afraid to go and talk about it to the venture capitalists, and maybe they will steal our ID. How do you protect this idea? Okay, so you have laws in Lebanon on international property, intellectual property. Uh, so in a very general way, IP is considered as a human right. In Lebanon, you have like mainly 4 different intellectual property rights. You have the patents, the copyrights, the trademarks, and the industrial designs. I will talk about each one. First of all, the copyrights. When you write something, when you draw an artistic work, you can protect it at the Ministry of Economy and Trade in Lebanon. It's the same procedure for all the rights, but each has a different cost and expense. So for the copyrights, it's under law a law of 1999. From the trademarks, it's like the brand, the trademark, the logo. How do you can register your logo, you can register your brand. You will also be protected at the Ministry of Economy and Trade. You also have the patents. So it's like the patent is like when you create something, how it works. You also can register it. And finally, you have the industrial design. So it's the shape of what you created. So the shape, for example, the shape of this microphone can be registered and everything. The chair, the table, you can also register that. Any questions on protect? I will talk about applications. Software application fall under the copyrights. I will go back to that. It was at the beginning for literary and artistic work. Now it is extended to computer software, video, films, and everything. Website, you can save it, so you can register it in many categories. So for the form, you can register it as the last category, or copyrights for what's the content of the. .com. You cannot register your website, the name of the website. Bala, you can register the name, but you cannot register it as a website. No, .com is something very generic, so you cannot register .com as a name for you, because .com is so this falls under the rules of intellectual property. So if something is really famous, you cannot register it. You cannot register .com, you cannot register chair or table, because those words became like very common. You need something to be unique and that you created by yourself. Yeah, Souk Designer can be registered, but .com alone cannot be registered. SoukDesigner.com, they should be. I don't know why they didn't. I don't know. Probably it's their rule, but it's not. The important is the word. It's not the .com with it. Because even if you use the word, the important is the word, because you can use it anywhere. Yani if you register, مثلا Banque du Liban, you cannot use Banque du Liban, you cannot use banqueduliban.com, you cannot use banqueduliban.net, everything. So you're protected. You don't need to register the .com. But you're safe. If you register the name, you are safe. You don't need to register .com. No, he doesn't want to use .com, but يستعمل شو الكلمة؟ SoukDesigner.com. Okay. بس في ما بقى هيدا بالسجل التجاري. At the trade register, it's not the commercial, it's not the Ministry of Trade. This is the commercial registry. So maybe this is their rule up there. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the word, if you can register it as a copyright, as a trademark. ما بعرف. You can use it. You can use it. Sorry. As a? Yes, a mobile application can be patented. No, the software, like the coding, is the code itself is registered as copyright. But the application is registered as patent as well. Yes, yes, it's the same. The application as such is registered as a patent, but the coding, like the text and everything, is registered as copyright. Okay, so for the procedure to register, actually it's very easy. You just go there. There are documents that are required, the basic documents, like the ID and everything. And you can go on the website of the Ministry of Economy and Trade, where you can see like the different categories where you can file and register what you created. And my advice is to do it before, if you're afraid that someone steals your ID. My advice is to do it before going and showing your ID anywhere. Okay, so any questions? More questions? Okay, so no, the registration is for 15 years. After 15 years, you can register it again. It depends. If you register a trademark, you choose the categories where you want to register it. It's different. And a patent is like maybe it's not very expensive. It's 500,000 lira. But trademark is more expensive because the more you add categories, for example, you have chairs and tables and then you have cars. The more you add categories, the more you pay. No, it depends. If the bank is buying an already established company, so we just review the documents to see that there's nothing wrong. But if it's a newly established company, they have to get the approval of the central bank before. So they just show us the draft, we stamp it, and then they go to register it in the central bank. Yeah. It's the only structure for the company under 231 is SAL, joint stock company. You cannot have another company. SAL. شركة مساهمة. Your question? No, this protects you in Lebanon. But you have the same, very similar procedures in the rest of the world. Of course, it costs more. So you can choose the countries where you have to file and register. Any other question? For a startup, it depends on the file. If the file is complete, like fully complete, it takes like 3 to 4 weeks. 1 month, let's say, to have the approval. But there are startups that are taking 2 years because they are not complying. We tell them change this, they change something else, and you have startups that are gone in 2-3 weeks. So it depends on how the negotiations go. Yeah, you can register an ID even if it's still an ID. You write it down, a patent, yeah. I once registered a TV program that wasn't aired at the end, but they just wrote it. Sorry?
How would you register a TV program?
TV program, you write it down, it's a patent. You write it down, you explain it, and then you register it. But the problem with patents is that if one thing changes, it's like a new, it's something new, you know? It's a bit tricky. Okay, so thank you.